Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you ever so much for joining us as we provide to you instant reaction of, just quite frankly, an absolute basket case, which is Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I don't know where we're going to start, and I don't know where the show is going to go, but if anything's going on in John's house right now, we're all going to be all right. As John leads, I feel like John has just.
Project,
I feel like John has. John looks like he's just come from Conte's presser, and he's just known what's going on, and even he can't believe what he's watching. Right. If you are listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We are on Facebook and Instagram too. Well, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Before we get into just what is happening right now at the club, just a reminder, bit of housekeeping, that we are delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown Bang opposite our South Stand. Now, I was going to say we're looking forward to hopefully having an end-of-season party at some point, but given where Spurs find themselves in, I think the last thing anyone wants right now is a party. There might be one depending on who the manager is and when the manager is going to be let go. But obviously, we'll keep you inundated with that. But for all Beavertown-related information, please go to beavertownbrewery.co.uk. Right. Therapy is about to start. Joining us, we've got the wonderful Mr. Lee McQueen. I think, Lee, you're proudly sponsoring a laser crush there, bud.
Do you know what? After today and ever since I come back from Sheffield United, it's a neck oil in there. And I actually think it should be a lupaloid. For those of you that know, this should be a lupaloid after today. So no laser crush for me at the minute. This is the proper stuff.
Yep. Joining Macca, making up our panel, we've got, listen, a man that's been demanded to come back on over the last few weeks where results have been better. So trust him to come back and it all fall apart. Crackers, it is Mr. Richard Cracknell. It is as well. Crackers, mate, where are we going with this? What is happening to our football club?
Well, as if Lucaloids, by the way, Lee, is that the left back that Harry Redknapp had a look at when he was at the club? Is it Romanian left back, isn't he, Lucaloid? Rick, honestly, as if people ain't glutton for enough punishment at Spurs, they're demanding that I come back on. It's just compounding the misery, isn't it? It's oh man, Rick, it's at the moment, it's like the Wild West, isn't it? You just don't know where to start with it, how to unpick it. It's like literally going into your old nan's sewing box, isn't it? And there they are, like there's 25 reels of cotton and they're absolutely smashed to bits and they're all wrapped up and there's elastic in there and a couple of safety pins and you're like, Nan says to you, unpick this for me. And like it's just, you look at it and just go, honestly, you just got to take scissors to it. It's a mess, Rick. It's still, but did we not say this will be coming? This has been coming and coming and coming. This is like, this is a pub fight that's been brewing for like, you know, you could feel it coming all night. And, you know, it's like the first punch has been thrown this evening, but more of that later, I guess. Don't suppose we won't be not talking about it, will we?
I mean, I'd say it's not often that things off the pitch normally end up impeding on it. But with Tottenham, it just seems that is the case week upon week at the moment. I mean, it feels like the game's one section and the press conference is another. And I think we probably want to talk about the press conference and the game. And that's despite the fact Spurs scoring 3 times. But before we do get into everything Tottenham, delighted to have him back on the show. We've got the wonderful musician, John Wobble, back. John, just a quiet one to come back for? Always a quiet one when you're on, John?
Oh, just torture, innit? You know, it's like a weird psychological... Has something happened? Because has something happened? What's the news then? Has your blow been struck? Is that Conte's interview? Was it contentious or something?
Oh, I'll tell you. We are going to, like I say, cover everything to do with Tottenham right now. We're going to come back around to John shortly. But look, Macca, let's try and open up with you. I mean, this show, of course, we are going to discuss Conte's post-match comments, which I can now understand pretty much supersede what's happened today. But, Macca, let's open up with you. Spurs do miss out the chance to move up to third and draw away at the club, which is the bottom of the league, worst home form in the Premier League. And Spurs just simply lost their defensive focus and ultimately were massively punished. You know, it is 2 potentially huge, crucial points that they've thrown away. And before I... Look, get into all things. The VAR decision was absolutely atrocious. However, Tottenham's defensive effort and lackly, I thought, of trying to attack the team bottom of the table is something else. I know we've scored 3 goals, but I just thought the way in which we were set up, we allow Southampton, I say a bottom side, 19 shots, against the bottom of the league, who rarely score. I'm just finding it really hard to get behind this brand of football. We are going to come on to Conte's comments, but maybe just first off, what you made of the game before we heard from Antonio.
Well, dishwater. So what Jar said before when we were sitting in the green room, it's just the same old, same old. I have to say, massive shout out. Sorry to do this on the show, right? But massive shout out to Millie McQueen, Lottie McQueen, and Lois McQueen. They're my 3 daughters. And today they were in the Wizard of Oz show, right? Millie was the lead, and then my twins played some big parts in it as well. And it was absolutely fantastic. And it kicked off at the exact same time as this dull dishwater football match. And I had absolute pleasure in watching my 3 daughters absolutely knock it out of the ballpark with heart, with effort, with determination. And they were nervous and they were scared and they put it right in and they were absolutely brilliant. Got a standing ovation for it. Tottenham didn't at all. They rocked up at Southampton with a 7-day before since their last game. They've been on the training pitch and being coached or whatever it might be to be set up for Southampton, and 3 shots on target the whole game, Rick. Are you having a laugh to the bottom team in this league? And this hasn't happened once. This isn't a one-off. We just got absolutely ruined a few weeks ago by Leicester, 4-1, who can't buy a point. I know they got one today, but they didn't buy it. But they can't buy a win. And ultimately we lose to them. Forest out of the cup when you had your blow up, Rick. Sheffield United, when all of us travelled up to Sheffield United, me and Crackers were there, freezing our gonads off. Absolutely woeful to lose to an 8-changed championship side. We've blown a 3-1 lead today against a bottom club that can't win. Theo Walcott ain't scored for 6 years. He's had a free freaking hit because our defence is sitting on the goal line. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Wolves can't win a game. They're getting beaten by relegation fodder around them. Yet we go up to Molineux, we lose 1-0. It's absolute bollocks. I'm sorry for the language, younger viewers and listeners, but I've had enough of it. And here's the thing: we've got Haaland that's scoring a hat-trick tonight, or probably more now because I've been talking for a minute and a half. He's probably scored another 3. But it's they're winning 6-0 Man City in FA Cup quarter-final weekend, where we should be. We should be in this weekend, and I'm not over the FA Cup exit. I'm not over it, and I'm sick of it. And I've seen the comments, some of the comments. I'm sure you're reading out. And we'll get into Conte. He's bang right, mate. He's absolutely bang right. You can't argue that. Yes, he's probably written his P45, but I'm sorry, Mr. Levy, and I'm sorry, Tottenham board. You cannot keep doing this over and over and over again. That's 14 managers in your tenure in 22 years. And other than Harry Redknapp, who stayed for 4 years, and Maurizio Pochettino, who stayed for 5.5, that's basically a manager a season. And it might work for the likes of Chelsea that were bankrolled by Roman Abramovich, I can't even talk, and his Russian oligarch money and all that sort of stuff. He's bankrolling the payroll by 40% every month or every year or whatever it is. It might run for them. It doesn't work for Tottenham. You need stability, and this club hasn't got any of it. We have a statement from the chairman that comes out and says we're going to go back to our DNA, and then we appoint Nuno. We burnt through Jose Mourinho, who, by the way, left our football club 6 days before a League Cup final, or was sacked 6 days before a League Cup final, I should say. He goes to Roma. What does he do? He wins a trophy. I mean, you could not make this stuff up. Antonio Conte is one of the best current. Everyone says, oh, Jose's passed it. Yeah, the reason why Tottenham burned him was Jose's passed it. Yeah, he still won another trophy. Conte rocks up. What happened? He ain't going to win a trophy. He's just written his P45 tonight. I probably have as well, Rick, if you might not have me back on. But I'm sick to the back teeth of going around the same cycle over and over and over again. And I've got some facts, and we'll get into these facts tonight, Rick, if you'll let me. I've got proper Rafael Benitez blue book facts ready to throw out there because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick of it. It is absolutely demoralising. I'm not even wearing Tottenham Clubber tonight. I am not even wearing Tottenham. Do you know why? Because I'm sick of it, Rick. Absolutely sick of it. And it's not today. It's everything about this football club. Everything about it. And something needs to change. It is time to change.
Whether they do or not is another question. I mean, look, 20 years would suggest that it wouldn't change. A lot of love for you, Lee. A lot of love for you on the back of that. I just don't know where this show is going to go. Quite frankly, I'm not sure where it's going to go. Joe here says on the screen, Conte is critics, but all roads lead back to Enoch. Not one fan can criticise what he said in that post-match press conference that we're going to bring you. He's spot on. As a season ticket holder, I've had enough. Cracks, let's come round to you. I promise you we are going to cover, obviously, the press conference as a whole. But, just to go back to the game if we can, and we will move into that. Mm-hmm. Spurs do manage to let a 3-1 lead slip with 15 minutes to go. We actually threatened to do the same against Nottingham Forest a week before. I can't let you forget that. That's now 40 goals conceded in the Premier League this season, the worst in the top 12, 11 goals at home all season for Southampton, and they score 3 against us. I mean, look, we can blame the players, and most certainly we are going to blame the players for a lot of what is wrong here. But you'd argue that some of them, in terms of the system that being set up in, is simply just not getting the best out of them. And I am struggling, Cracks, to understand what we're doing on the training ground, because there doesn't seem to be any style about our play at all at the moment. And I think, look, on the back of the interview from Conte, it's very, very clear this isn't all one person. This is a multitude of factors, but it feels like it's coming to a bit of a head now, Cracks. Do you agree?
Well, it's done. It has been done for weeks, hasn't it? He's been begging to be sacked. And, tonight was, that was it tonight. But still, and this is a damning indictment on the club, they will go away and look at his comments, and they'll look at the chances of us finishing top 4 now, and they'll still make a financial decision on letting him go. It will be based on a financial aspect and a financial aspect alone. They'll look at this and they'll go, okay, how much is it to sack him? It's going to be this. What do we lose if we don't make top 4? What's the loss with regards to the the perception now of the club with what he said? And they'll sit there and they'll look at this in bean counter terms. That's all they'll do, because they are just balance sheet owners. Simple as that. Everything is firstly and foremostly a financial issue. So that's this is what they'll do, and that's a terrible indictment of them. That's all they are. They're just balance sheet owners. Work financially, yes, do it. Does not do it. But it's as terrible as it's been. I do say, but it could be and should be much better. And there's players there, but be under no illusion that have to go. They've been there so long. We're tired of them. I think they're tired of us. They're just simply not good enough. But you add into the fact that they're not good enough, and they're just not playing for this manager. They've burnt another one out. They've gone through another one. Now, as you said, there's a multitude of issues here. And one of those, the quick fixes, but it has to be the right fix, but done quickly rather than a quick fix, is to get somebody in that plays some progressive football. And whilst you're dealing with this terrible defence that we've got, shield them, play front foot football, play in the other team's half. If you knock down the amount of attacks you're receiving by 60, 70%, you then also knocking down the chances of actually exposing them and then making mistakes. So, there's a fix there straight away, but be under no illusion. These players are as culpable in this as the owners are, and the manager is as well. He was spot on with his comments this evening, by the way, absolutely spot on with them. But even within that, he hasn't cut his cloth accordingly with these players. And, going back to the game, Rick, this is a game that we've all seen a thousand times before. Lee, going to see your daughters, fair play. So would any dad. But you miss nothing, Lee. Just, you know, just the Leicester game, the Wolves game, it was that again. That's all it was. It was just that again. So just shut your eyes, rerun those games in your head, and you've got a full analysis of today's game. So, I mean, it seems quite ironic that your girls are in Wizard of Oz today, Lee, because it really felt like Antonio Conte was Toto this evening and properly pulled back the curtain on the big voice just to find Daniel Levy pulling the levers behind the curtain. And that's all it is, really. He's let daylight in upon magic this evening, hasn't he? It's, it was the game itself, Rick. I mean, it's not the story, is it? Today, let's be honest, the press conference it shouldn't be. And just poor, but they're just not playing for him. They're just not playing for him. It's the Wild West, Rick.
Can I just say, I mean, there's many out there saying, but we scored 3 goals and there's just not playing for him. I must just say, this is 3 goals against bottom of the table Southampton, who we've allowed to have 19 shots on our goal. And again, I will just suggest when we're going to come on to Conte's press conference comments that we are going to very, very shortly, Conte clearly feels the players aren't playing for him. And we are going to come on to that very, very soon. John, if I can bring you in, look, before facing Spurs today, Southampton hadn't scored more than 2 goals in a Premier League game all season. And then Spurs conspired to throw away a 3-1 lead in the space of what were led is 13 minutes. You can score 3 goals, but try and camp in our own half. But I think the concern is, John, that the emphasis on the weaker side of our game is what is being exposed right now. And again, I understand there's a blame for the players, and rightly so. But where do you stand overall, John, for you, and how we can try and move forward if that is possible right now to think of?
Well, when we went 2 goals clear today with Perisic's finish, Tottenham fans never rest easy. So you always suspect it could all go wrong. I've learnt my lessons over many, many years of following this rickety old flimsy club, But today against the bottom club, I kind of felt that's it. Surely now they're going to keep it tight. All you got to do is see the next 5, 6, 7 minutes out, really, at that point. But no, they go down. I think they scored within a few minutes, very few minutes. And then when it's 3-2, you're just waiting. You're just waiting for, a penalty to be given or whatever. Where'd you start with it? I mean, I'm really, I can see here, Oakley and Crackers are really upset. I'm 65 later this year, day at a time. I mean, I've had this for years now. It's I've missed so many things stupidly that I neglected so much following this club home and away at one point, at one time for years. So let's start. Where'd you start? Let's have a chairman who's earned 40 million over the last few years, I believe. That's the kind of top money, the best paid chairman in the league. You'd normally expect the best paid would be the best performing, wouldn't you? You didn't normally expect that to be somebody who's having success on the pitch. In terms, I can't disagree with anything Conte said, but I find his football tedious and old-fashioned. This season's been terrible, so I'm very anti-Ennick. I think that they've been very clever the way they've got control of the club, and I think that they know our fans. They know the fan base very well. We're a very placid fan base compared to most fan bases. In fact, a very good mate of mine, my mate Ollie, who all we ever do is talk Tottenham for years and years now. He was Robert Elm's producer back in the day. And that's how I got to know him for going in to do Robert's show. And he's furious, like all of us. And he texted me knowing I was coming on tonight and said, could you please ask a question? And it's of the fans. And he said, when will the fans ever really react against this situation? Because as he said, Chelsea, Arsenal, even Liverpool, Man United fans would not be swallowing performances like today, week in, week out. It just wouldn't be allowed. So we've got a very weak culture, very placid fan base. I believe all the games to the end of the season have sold out, which is unbelievable, So it's going nowhere. Levy, as usual, will be like a rabbit in the headlights, won't quite know what to do. I think we'd be better off playing 4-2-3-1 with the players we've got. We should go back to that system, at least in the interim, because our centre halves are just not good enough. You know, the way the team's set up. At least if you put 2 pivot players there, you can, you know, you could put Kuleveski or whoever, or Kane as a number 10, and you know, you could improvise. At least you've got 4 good players, and at least then I don't care if we get Champions League football or not now. I think we probably won't. I'd be very surprised if we do. But I said that last year, and we did push on, and it was a very encouraging end to the year last year. This season's been a normal old misery, but really, you know, we'd probably be lucky to get Europa League football at this rate. But at least could we, you know, it would be wonderful to close out the season playing attacking front foot football, you know, and have a couple of pivot midfielders, because at the moment we haven't got any creative midfielders anyway, and that's down to Conte, actually, isn't it? That's not down to Levy. We haven't got anyone. We haven't really got a proper creative number, you know, midfielder, proper number 10 really. And we'd have to improvise with that if we did, which would be Kane, I suppose, if we did go back to that sort of system. But you know, I'm afraid Lindley, I've got time for. Think he's okay. Romero, I wonder what they'd be like as a 4. I don't know what Porro would be like as a right back. I know Emerson would be okay as a right back as opposed to a right wing back. Davis injured today. He's probably out for a while, I suppose. You know, Perisic been scored today, but it's been pretty disappointing. Defensively, he's not really, you know, he's not particularly dependable. He's not a particularly strong defender, you know. I mean, so we've got this perennial, it's literally a perennial problem of Enick, who have been there for 20 odd years. We've won the Milk Cup in that time. We're always 2 or 3 players short of a good squad. We've never really had a proper recruitment process. We've done all right when we had Daniel Kamali and people. At the time we bought Modric in and Bow and stuff. But it was never really, it never felt like there was joined up thinking going on in terms of recruitment and forward planning. Daniel loves a deal. So I remember at the time we got Dempsey in, and I can't remember the key parts of the team never get looked at, and we ended up with 3 number 10s that year. I think we had him and Sigurdsson and someone else, you know, because Daniel loves a deal. It's to remind me of a bloke there's a full Cortina 4 streets away for sale, and the blokes only want 600 quid, and really it's worth 1,300. So, you know, you nip straight over because it's a deal. It's like a second-hand car dealer mentality, you know. So, you know, but these they're in it for the long term. They're not looking to sell up. They're very much, the more you look at them, you look at Joe Lewis's operation in Patagonia, and I don't know too much about it, but you know, Patagonia in Argentina is, you know, he owns a lot of land there, I believe. And if you look at how that's set up, you know, it's quite involved, you could say, these deals, the way things are set up. And if you look at Tottenham, the club and the surrounding area, you know, it could well end up that the club's going to have a big old chunk of Haringey. You know, I don't know if they're still buying property, but obviously that's a large part of it, you know, and also making the stadium, you know, having boxing matches there and pop concerts. That's all about revenue income, you know. The brand, the club has become a smaller and less important part of it. So they've been very smart. A lot of it's based on property. It's a long game. We're better to deal to than heroin addicts, football fans, especially Tottenham fans, because with a heroin addict, if a dealer up the road's got better gear, they'll go up there. But we're stuck with Tottenham. And the trouble is, of course, if you really think what is Tottenham, it's an idea. Tottenham's an idea. It's a concept. It's a number of things. It's memories. It's a feeling. All that's, you know, it's a bond to an idea and a concept more than anything. Well, I'm not sure really that in actuality, the actual brand that's there now, this tainted brand, is something I want to be associated with. I went to the Milan game, and I was the only season ticket holder that had bought in my little area that had bought a ticket for it. No one else, which tells you a lot, by the way, doesn't it? None of the other people around me who were friendly with had bought a ticket. There was all new people there, nice people, but I felt a complete disconnection that night, like I've never felt before, completely. But I think I saw Lee's walking back from the game, I think, or before, you know, and I walked before the game. There was a feeling of, it was as if it was a meaningless end of season game or something. You know, it was very empty vibe. It wasn't what you'd expect for a team in the last 16 of the Champions League, the atmosphere that night, you know. So it's very, very poor. And I think we all feel on the, you know, it is possible to give it up. I joked in my book that, you know, you change your wife, you change your car, you change your house, you never change your team. Well, I wonder, because Tottenham's just, you know, is it the club that I supported as a boy? This has gone on a long time, in essence, to be fair to any, or I don't want to be particularly fair to any, but from the time of Irving Scholar, 83, when Birkinshaw said there used to be a football club over there. Since then, since the Whale family, we've never really had owners, I think, that were particularly simpatico with the club. How many times has Joe Lewis been to the ground? You know, been to see Tottenham play. And I don't believe for 1 minute that, you know, Levy, all this, my dad took me to you know, to see, his dad took him to see games. To me, I don't really, for me, I would struggle to believe he would have the connection with Tottenham that we've got. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. You know, it's a business thing. And it's, you know, it's quite, you know, it's quite cynical, obviously. Business can be cynical. What you'd hope for is owners who are good businessmen, have a love for the club. I mean, you look at this guy, less people now, I think, are saying Levy is this great business guy, because you look at the deal, the thing with Brian Gill, for instance. You know, we take Gill from Seville, we pay Seville 21 mil and Lamella, whatever it was, and now they've got the 21 mil Lamella, and now they've got Gill. Blinding business, great business, just nonsense, you know. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next few hours, I suppose, or days. I've got a feeling that Levy will do nothing. He'll just stick with it. You know, it will just ache on. I didn't go to the Forest game last week. I decided to spend the time with family. My missus had the weekend. She runs a community centre. She had the weekend off. So it was like, well, I ain't going to go down to see them. We'll have the weekend up here together. And I'm not going to the Brighton game. We're going to Wells, you know, for the week. So for the Easter, you know, because it's just like, you know, give me ticket. Even my son's, you know, my older boy was a good player. He was decent, very, very decent youth player, and he was very unimpressed with Conte. Just said it's not a Tottenham manager from the word go. They've continued going there with me. Both my boys are in town when the Brighton game's on. Neither of them are interested in going. Neither of them, because they're young geezers with stuff going on. They just see Tottenham now, as we all do, as a bit of an embarrassment. It's not something you want to talk to about people. You know, I'm not proud of Tottenham. It's like something you're ashamed of, really. They're shameful. There's something quite... You know, they're a shameful club. Anyway, that's... I hope I've not said anything tuning a knuckle or anything there.
I think that, John, I've got to say, there's so much honesty pouring out for you here. I must say, lots and lots of emotion. And we haven't really even touched the surface yet. That's the crazy thing. We're half an hour in and we haven't barely touched the surface. What we are going to quickly do, we will just go for our first break of the show. For our listeners on audio, it might be for the last time you are going to hear from... As we record this, it might be different for those when this goes out in audio later this evening, from the current Spurs head coach, Antonio Conte. I do wonder how many more times I'm going to say that on Last Word on Spurs. I don't think it's going to be for much, much longer. Right, just to give you a bit of a summary from Antonio Conte's
Gary
press
Megson next, Rick. Rick,
how quickly are we returning?
Gary Megson.
Well, I said to you cracks before, nothing
the
would surprise me.
Show Tuesday night.
Honestly, nothing would surprise me on this show. Nothing would surprise me. Look, we are going to get into Conte's comments. I feel like there's still a lot to unpack in regards to just the feeling at the moment around the man. So before we do get into the press conference, I just want to give a bit of a paraphrase. So essentially, after the game, Conte says the players are playing for themselves, not for the team, and that they haven't made any progress this season. He also states that he sees a lot of selfish players in the Spurs team. Conte stated that the Spurs players did not show enough spirit and says they are not playing for the badge or the fans. And he adds, it's the same every season, no matter who the manager is. And I know Jack Pickbrook, friend of the show, said that he'd never seen anything like the press conference Antonio Conte had held. 10 minutes of him trying to take everyone else down with him. It was such an amazing performance that you almost had to admire it. And we're big fans of Jack. Love him on Last Word on Spurs. I'm sure we'll get him back on over the summer. But the result, of course, does leave Spurs in serious doubt right now of a top 4 finish. And going into this international break, you do wonder, really, Lee, coming over to you, whether the club have now a serious decision to make. And of course, the press conference is going to definitely supersede a lot of what's been said tonight. But Lee, just to have a word on the players, because they started the second half almost asleep. And it's not the first time, Lee, we've seen us giving away goals at the start of the second half. So, you know, we're going to blame the manager a lot for what's going on. But I just wonder, the players at 3-1 for not seeing a game out with 30 minutes to go. We are going to blame the manager for the style, but how much blame do you think, Lee, should be apportioned on these players? Because they have seen off now 3-4 managers, putting it bluntly.
It's an absolute joke, Rick. An absolute joke. It's like blame to Daniel Levy and the board, right? There's absolute blame at their door. There is blame at the manager's door. There's absolute blame at the players' door. You know, there's probably blame at our door in terms of the fans as well, like from top to bottom. I mean, you can't. I think I said famously on one of the Love Sport shows, we need to start each half or each game with a wet fish and just slap the players in the face with a wet fish to wake them up. You know, and we said that 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's still happening. Giles bang on the money, like it's 65. You know, one day at a time this year, and he's seen it all. Cracker's seen it all. I've seen it all. Every season, every single season. Antonio Conte's comments tonight are absolutely bang on the money. Like, yes, he's probably going to lose his job over it, but they are spot on, just for people tuning in right now, right? They are absolutely bang on, in my opinion. The players need to take responsibility. You know, the Dyers, the Davis, the Sons, the Kanes, Lloris, Lucas, they've been there for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10. I mean, Davinson Sanchez, he's been there for what? He signed in 2017, I think it was. You know, a record signing. Ndombele, record sign, don't even play for the club. Lo Celso, like 40 million, don't even play for the club. It's an absolute mess. The recruitment of this football club is a disaster. And you keep bringing in people. The accountability has to be with the leadership of this football club. And there's no leadership. No one ever hears from them. We don't know where we're going. We've no idea what our vision is. It's an utter shambles from top to bottom. And I'm sorry, I'm properly on a rant tonight because I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. I could literally cry. It's a joke. I can't believe I'm doing this rant stuff. I can't. It's not in me. I'm normally Mr. Optimistic, Rick. You know it. I'm with you all the time, every step of the way on the show. I just can't believe it. And players that are going out there and they just don't care. This feels worse than the Sheffield United 1-1 draw, which, by the way, they should have won when they got rid of Pochettino. Right, this feels worse than, you know, the dire rubbish football that we were playing under Jose 6 days before cup final. They ended up sacking Jose Mourinho. This feels terrible. This football. Now, where is the swashbuckling? Get the ball from outside your own box, give it to Kulusevski, back to Emerson, back up the pitch to Kulusevski, into the middle, a Højbjerg pass over the top. You know, Kulusevski cuts in, pings one into the top corner, or puts it to Son, and Son just drops the shoulder, beats 2 men, smashes it in the net. I mean, this is a Southampton side today, Rick, that have conceded only 6 more goals than us this season. I mean, hello, only the bottom of the league, and they've only conceded 6 more goals. It's unbelievable. This is a manager that plays defensive football so that we're solid. We are softer now than we were in the mid-90s. We have got that little tickly belly, like a little nice little kitten. Come and tickle Tottenham, we'll get over it. It's a joke. We're a laughing. And we've got that lot up the road in N5 that are top of the league, loving us going through this meltdown. Sometimes you have to go through the meltdown. Sometimes you have to go through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff. But the good stuff never comes. It never, ever comes. Even the Champions League final, it didn't come. Even semi-finals, 9 semi-finals we've had under this tenureship, 9. We ain't won a trophy. I'm still not over the Sheffield United defeat. I'm not over it. It's not acceptable. And everybody just accepts it. Jason was on this fine show. Good, obviously, Jason, one of our own, was on this show a couple of weeks ago talking about hundreds of defeats. Lloris has had over 100 defeats for this football club. Kane, Son, over 100 defeats. Dyer, over 100 defeats. It doesn't hurt them anymore. You're talking about the players. They're not hurting. There is some of them hurting. So they don't hurt. It's ruined, absolutely ruins our weekend. It ruins it. I would rather play Super Sunday, or Monday Night Football. That'd be better. Every week, Monday Night Football. Because at least my weekend's intact. At least then I don't have to worry about it. 12:30 on a Saturday isn't because of the atmosphere is so shocking. It's because it ruins your entire weekend. At least 3 o'clock, a couple of hours less, you got optimism. It's pony, Rick. I know you want some analysis out of me. I can't give it to you tonight, mate. I've lost it. I've gone because to every Perisic, right? He ain't scored a Premier League. He ain't scored a goal actually, but he ain't scored a Premier League goal all season. He didn't even celebrate. Now, don't give me that crap. Oh, he was doing that celebration of relief and everyone. You've just scored your first Premier League goal to make us 3-1 up and put the game to bed. You need to be celebrating that. No celebration. What's wrong with these people? I'm sorry, man.
It's
to put that shirt on. Yeah. It's odd, Rick, to put that shirt on, walk across that line to represent this unbelievable football club should be, every time you do it, should be, well, it just take your breath away. It should take your breath away. And it just doesn't for these players. And it's not some of them, it's most of them. And it's a freaking joke. Now you look at Pedro Porro that's coming today, scored a goal. He's banging them in, by the way. He had 2 or 3 shots in the first half that he skied miles over. And he was scoring them in training in the week. And then he goes and rockets that ball in the back. And see what that meant to him and what it was all about. He's new. He's fresh. He's going to give him 6 months, give him a year. He'll be the same as the rest of them. Oh, yeah, used to losing. Is that what we do? We're just weak, mentally weak from top to bottom. No one cares. We are not bothered if we win football matches, if we win stuff. And if I'm wrong, the board, if I'm wrong, I know you watch, I know you're listening. Come and tell us that I'm wrong. Come and put me in my box and tell me how wrong I am. Because I'm telling you, as a fan who pays for absolutely everything, travel up and down the country, there's people that go everywhere across the world to follow this football club and pay the money. And Joe, I'm with you. I went to the Champions League match. Of course I did. I'm there every bloody week, every other week, every week I can go. I'm there at home, and if I can get to away games as well. I went to the Champions League final. I went to Champions League final as well, of course. I went to the Champions League match against AC Milan. People around I don't know. It's just people. That's fine, and they wanted to get behind the team, and they deserve the opportunity to support the team. But that's the core of the football club. It's ripped out of it. Yeah, no one cares.
Bob Spurs says here, I think the fact some of the fan base are giving it to the Bravo and something Conte is out of order just reflects the diversity. Big up, lads. Thank you very much for that. Oh, what a show. You know what? Obviously, we don't know what's going to be. Well, I think we all know what's going to come next. It's just timing as to when it's going to come next. Cracks, if I can bring you in, I mean, like I say, the comments are going ballistic. There's over 1,400 of you watching us live. So again, thank you so much for giving up your Saturday night to bear more about Spurs. We're hoping this is going to offer you some kind of therapy. But I tell you what, at the moment, you just don't know where this is going to go. Jordan Beck says, before we come on to the comments, that Conte isn't wrong, but I find it pretty rich, all this criticism from a man who has refused to take any responsibility for some of the season's results. And again, 100%. There's no doubt about it. This is not all just one person, but I do think, Cracks, the players do also have to take a portion of the blame here, because it is very easy to blame Conte for how bad Spurs have been. And I think we've blamed Conte a lot all season for the style, the rigidness, the stubbornness of his tactics. But there are some moments when you have to think and look at the players and say, are they good enough? Because at 3-1 in a game against the team that are bottom of the league, to not see that out, and we can talk about tactics, we can talk about in-game management, for me, a lot of this is also on the players, Cracks, and they're again going to be seeing off yet another manager, Cracks.
Yeah, and you're right. Some of them, even if the club are running the club in the right way, and we get a manager in playing progressive football, there is simply some players there that have been there too long, or not good enough, or both. So these players, they need moving. They need to get gone, but they're not going to walk. Rick, the club's got to go. Cheerio, you're done here. Thanks very much. Because who just walks out of their job, even if you're not doing it well, you just there's very honourable people about that go, I don't think I'm good enough for this, and I'm going to walk away. Not when you're getting that sort of money. So tough decisions need to be made with these with some of these players. Well, they're not tough decisions; they're easy decisions. But you just have to be brave enough to do them. Talking about the lot down the road, you have to look at them and say to you, well, there's a football club model with that dissimilar to us. In fact, they probably run on a level than us with stadium and the revenue comes. But all they've done was just got the football side right. They got rid of the players that were causing problems. They wrote them off. They brought a manager in. They backed him. They backed him when they were going through their rebuild and, finishing lower down the league. And they stuck with it when there was questions being asked. And here they are, doing what they're doing now. And then you look at a club like Brighton and what they're doing now, and Fulham and what they're doing now. These are clubs with a blueprint and a plan and a bit of a DNA and an eye on the football side of the club. So it is doable. You don't need oil state money or anything like that at all. Obviously that really does help. But, within a certain budget constraint, you can absolutely have a successful, progressive football club. You just need to be brave. You just need to make these decisions and stick them and give it a go, So it baffles me that Enoch can't see that this is the answer. These ain't stupid people. So, there's either an ulterior motive to what they're doing at the moment, chasing this, that, and everything else away from the pitch. I don't, Rick, but it's just really not difficult. And, some of those players, as we said, need to go. But there is also some very, very decent players there still that's not playing at the moment. The whole culture of the club means they're just not putting a shift in. So there's much wrong, but it's solvable. This is solvable. You bring in that progressive manager.
Can I say something there?
Youngsters coming. Go on, John.
Yeah, so what? See, one of the problems I think with this is Levy, who's got the reputation, probably fairly, as a details guy. So he's over every little detail. He was with the building of the stadium. He's into every little detail. I remember watching the documentary when Mourinho was there, the one that was on Amazon. And he's this guy that's actually at the training ground, keeping an eye on everybody and everything. And, a wiser man maybe, would actually just stay away, run the business side of it. Obviously, that's fine, but stay away from it. Have a director of football there. Let the culture develop. Sometimes I know that as a band leader, just in a small way, get out of the way, go away sometimes. Let people breathe a bit. Don't be breathing down people's necks all the time. Don't even be there just keeping an eye on everybody, And that kind of bothered me. It appeared that you have this chairman who's, into every little nuance of the building of the stadium and all that, and is obviously, maybe a control freak, and a guy that runs a company who's got every right to be a control freak. Lots of companies get lost on the golf course, is the old saying, and when people don't attend to enough detail. But in terms of the football culture, I don't think he's a football guy. And for that sea change to happen that Crackers is saying, I think Levy would just have to at least just kind of remove himself a bit from that process, is what I would think would need to happen. I mean, for some reason, Pochettino seemed to like Levy, and that seemed to work. It worked well. He seemed to kind of actually like Levy, and
until the point, John.
Yeah, but John, you make a good point, right? So you look at the level of detail that Daniel Levy has done off field. I mean, it's magnificent. Off football, Daniel Levy and the board have done an absolutely magnificent job. Truly wonderful stadium, facilities, regeneration of one of the poorest areas in the country, commercial model, driving Tottenham to global status, etc., ensuring the club will survive and all that sort of stuff. Fantastic. But if we just had, I think Crackers, you said this on the show a couple of shows ago, if we just had that level of detail that John, you're talking about on the footballing side, we'd be the best club in Europe. Like we would be the best club in Europe because of how good they've been off the field. But they're not football people. Like I've backed this board, and to a lot of people, they come out, why don't you say leave it out? Why don't you say link out? I'm never going to hashtag that ever. I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to be associated with them groups. But I'm associated with the fact that I want change. I'm fed up with the same old stuff year in, year out, season in, season out. And what's going to happen? They're going to sack Conte maybe tonight, maybe over the weekend, before in the international break. They're going to bring back Maurizio Pochettino. Hopefully, that would be my choice. But, it's not too much difference who they bring in. But they bring back Maurizio Pochettino. He comes in and starts to develop Poros and Spencers and Udogis and Bentancurs and, Skips and the Basumas. And he gets a bigger tune out of them. But then he's still left with the Dyers and the Davises and the Kanes and the Larises and the Lucases and the Sons that have to go through the same cycle again. And in a year's time, guess what? Breaking news at the bottom of your screen. It's the same story again. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. We have to have the culture Crackers was talking about and has been talking about for the last few weeks and months now. It's not there. There's not a winning mentality, John, is there in this club? There's not a winning culture. You walk into Chelsea, regardless of the amount of rubbish they've even the quarterfinal champions, they could probably go and win the damn thing. It's absolute because the mentality, they're absolute winning.
The DNA, the DNA is there. I mean, I always say with football, you either need a lot of money and a degree of common sense, or you need a lot of smarts with a little bit of money, And of course, you understand to build a culture based on, look at the old crazy gang at Wimbledon, very little resources at that time. But they built this absolutely fighting, winning mentality, and it can be done. I mean, to some extent, Pochettino did do that. And as we know, that can work, especially with a modern game, with a bedrock of younger players, with some seasoned pros sort of in there. But it's the culture. And this is the thing that, I just suspect when a real winning, a proper winning manager comes in, like Mourinho and Conte, there's a resistance actually at the top of the club, not the players. That's where I think it starts, is where I suspect, it's like they're stymied, is what I suspect, because let's face it, with Conte, we all know Conte's blueprint down to every last detail. It's all out in plain sight. He buys the best players, you don't have any major weak links in the team. He's not particularly interested, I don't think, in academy players unless someone's ready to come in and do a job now. So we know that. So you spend money. But they got him in and treated him like a project manager. Madness to me, So I don't know if things change, because I think, Levy's not under any pressure, and there's just, for me, an arrogance with the owners. They won't really listen. You'll see whenever there's problems, you'll see stories in the media about, Neymar's going to sign for us or something or other, we're after top players or top managers or whatever. And it just keeps everyone on side for a bit. And I wonder if they sometimes think, wow, our fan base is really placid, you know, because most fan bases would kick off, and that's the thing now, you know. I wonder with it, it's just a sort of lame club, and it could still limp on for a few years like this. I'd like to think this is the tipping point now. We've all finally had enough. I've known so many tipping points, you know. I mean, what an absurd club. When we won the bloody Milk Cup or wherever it was, and I was there 2008, and I remember talking to me mate Ollie, you know, that night, and it was Ramos when all the ketchup had been banned, and it felt like this is it. We just beat Chelsea, and this is the dawn of a new age. Well, I think we won one more game to the end of the season that season. You know, I've seen it all with Tottenham, the uselessness of it and the brittleness. The main thing for me on the pitch over the years that's annoyed me is the absolute basic for me unprofessionalism, not marking at corners. You know, so we concede lots of, you know, from dead balls. Traditionally, Tottenham, we're a weak team when you get into the last 5 minutes. You know, we lack a psychological. There isn't a culture where senior pros can really take charge of things, it seems to me, you know. So everyone, and of course, everyone, you get a culture of everyone kind of hiding behind everybody else and winners. And it's been that way. Look, back to the 70s, we had Graham Souness, who was an absolute dynamite player, completely fierce and committed to the cause. And of course, we sold him to Middlesbrough because he was outspoken and felt he should be in the team. And of course, that we then got relegated a year or two later. You know, this is the DNA of Tottenham. There's a huge weakness there, and that's more the point. You know, I remember us collapsing against Derby County 5-3 at home in the FA Cup, and an FA Cup replay in '73. We're a brittle team, and everyone knows it. As Alex Ferguson famously said, lads, it's Tottenham. You know. Yep. And that guy, that's may well be what that guy, this new Southampton manager said. This is Tottenham. Come on, we know you go at them, you're going to get something because they know they won't fancy it. And 19 shots they had. Teams have been peppering our goal with shots for fun, you know. And I'm sure it's actually a tactic. I mean, it was in the derby we lost at the Emirates, you know, with that party shot. You know, I think it's kind of seen that, well, generally they're not going to hit the target or we'll block it or whatever, so it's okay for them to have shots. And so the tactic for me, and this is criticising Conte, seems to be he thinks with mediocre players that you can just pack your box, allow teams to get down the sides of you and cross the ball and have lots of possession and play across the front of your box, and they'll get a few shots, but it'll be okay as long as you, just throw your body in the way or whatever. Keep that, you know, keep that penalty area full of bodies, you know, which is kind of neophandral kind of football, really, you know, and it's just dull as much as anything, you know. So yeah, there's a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong, and the worrying thing for me is that the owners at the top won't relinquish that way of really doing things and allow. I wonder the culture won't be allowed to. I hope I'd love to sort of, you know, if we won the league. And I, you know, saw Daniel Levy in the street. I'd want to shake his hand and say, "Hey, you know, I was wrong about you," or you know what, you proved me wrong. You really, you know, you stepped out the way and you really allowed the culture to change. But I don't think so, because the main thing, as Lee said, the regenerating the poorer part of London, that's not for the benefit of Haringey residents. I don't really think. I think everything about ENIC is about ENIC. It's about ENIC. You know, it's not about us. It's not about the football club. It's about ENIC and its business concerns. That's what it's about. There can be no doubt about that. You know, if you just look at the situation. So that's their priority. You know. What we would like is if they really truly make the football club a priority and not like a kind of a mascot, because the club's becoming a mascot for the brand, you know. So the Tottenham brand is this thing that, you know, Beyonce concerts happen at this wonderful stadium. You got you got a campus there, I believe, and it's, you know, a lot of land being bought, etc., etc. But the clubs are kind of a mascot now. You know, the clubs at my mascot are kind of a brand within a brand. It's not absolutely the end of the world if we don't win anything, I believe, for them, really. I'm sure they'd like us to win stuff, but the most important thing is to be in contention for the Champions League really and be in there or abouts. And I'm sure they'd like us to win stuff. I wouldn't say they'd go against that, but that's the problem. So this is such an ingrained thing now. I just as I say, we haven't really had good. Remember, we nearly went bankrupt, the club. Incredibly, we nearly went bankrupt. And then Alan Sugar came in, and then there was the ugly battle with him and Terry Venables. Most of the fans were on the side of Venables, and I think he was vanquished ultimately. And then Sugar sold the club. I bet he regrets selling it now. I would have thought, the way football's gone, and we've been stuck with it. So 1983, that's a long time. That's a long time. And the only blip in that was Pochettino, and they got lucky. They got lucky with a guy. Out of all these managers, a guy came in who's very positive, very bright, and I think he managed up better than any Tottenham manager's done. Because I would just imagine it was apparently, I remember reading, he took Daniel Levy out for Argentinian steak dinners, and you think, that's so clever. It's so clever. So he managed up well. John,
they went out quite wafting and all that together, didn't they? They were tight, like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. And yet Daniel Levy, as far as I could see, and I've got a lot of, obviously can't really argue with the fact didn't support him. We had 2 windows where we bought nobody. How you could still have Sanchez, and he seems a nice lad, Sanchez, a quiet lad. But I was there at Sanchez's debut, which was at Wembley against Swansea at home. And he was up against somebody like Wilfred Boney. And I was very unimpressed and very concerned that day, because I thought, this guy doesn't look like a sound. He's not a Mike England or somebody. He's not Ledley King, this guy. He hasn't got that positional strength, and he looks a bit all over the shop. And I've never lost that thing about him. How Dyer's still there, I don't know. How is Dyer still there? Dyer's been there since we won the cup as an amateur club in 1901, hasn't he?
With no disrespect, Dyer, Davis, Sanchez, Son, Kane, Lloris. We're talking about players that have
Davis bought in 1923 as a backup left back from Swansea, yeah, and he's now right. And what about this? I was on here defending Emerson Rowe, as you'd remember, as not the one, and then he started to thought he was a decent right back, so that's lovely. Out of almost what seems spite, Conte won't give Spence a go, So we now got, we didn't have any decent right-sided players. We've now got Spence, Porro, and Emerson. So we've got 3. We're more than good on the right-hand side, and on the left, no one. Next year we got this Destiny geezer coming, but yet again, it's just a joke way of running a club. Also, as we all know, we've been lacking a commanding centre half for years. So because we should have bought somebody in when Vertonghen and Alderweireld was still there. 2 fantastic players. We never replaced. We never replaced Dembele. What a giant of a man he was. What a player. The dots don't join up. It's not a well-run club. In terms of as we know. So something has to kind of give. I'll be surprised, I suppose. I didn't see all the interview because I had to shoot off quick, but I just caught the very first part of the interview, and I didn't know it was as contentious as that. Obviously, he just wants to go. I mean, Conte just wants to go, doesn't he?
What we are going to do for everybody next, we are going to react to that interview. But before we do, just to kind of get in today, I feel like in the situation that we're in, the game kind of powers into something significance, really. But I must just say, look, for as much as many will look at the VAR decisions in terms of Niles fouling Sarr, and as much as maybe some would say Sarr fouls Maitland-Niles, possibly not even at all, I don't think we should get away from the fact that Spurs deserve absolutely nothing out of that game. We're trying to control the game without the ball. They make 3 subs and we simply just get overrun. And again, we're slow again to make changes. We concede yet again. I think Mac said at the top of the show, this was a side, in terms of Spurs, that a week to prepare against the league bottom side with the worst home record. I think you can't make an excuse when it is giving up 19 shots on the goal. And if I just read you our last 5 away games, Southampton 3, Spurs 3, Wolves 1, Spurs 0, Sheffield United 1, Spurs 0. AC Milan 1, Spurs 0. Leicester 4, Spurs 1. There's 3 sides there in the bottom 7 and 1 in the Championship. And whether you are a believer of Antonio Conte, and we're going to come on to his comments next, that I'm sure many are going to resonate with and believe that he's right in what he's saying. I think the tactics, the stats, everything like this just simply can't continue. It really, really can't. So what we are going to do, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio, and you are going to hear from a dejected Dejan Kulusevski, who gives you his thoughts on the back of that game. Once again, massive thank you.
He's been bloody useless as well the last few games. Sorry to interrupt all the time. I'm on a float tonight, but he's been crap. This Danjuma, fancies the job. Should have started today. Yet again, that's not down to Levy. That's down to Conte because he wasn't a Conte signing. Yet again, to me, it's unprofessional. You use what you got. Son's gone, right? Yeah. Son's. I don't think he'll ever be great guy, great player, but he's gone. He's not there anymore. He's just not. He's not at the races at all. Anyway, I'm sorry. I mean,
that'd be silly. Do you know what? I've got to say, if only the players showed as much passion as our panel tonight, we'd have a bloody good team. There's over 1,400 of you watching us live. Can I just say a massive thank you to our watching audience on a Saturday night, and a massive thank you to these guys for giving up their Saturday night so far. The wonderful Lee McQueen, the brilliant Richard Cracknell, and the superb musician Jar Wobble here that are reflecting and talking you through all things Tottenham. And for the sake of their own mental health, I don't want to keep them longer than what needs be. But we have to react to Antonio Conte's press conference. Patrick on the screen here says, superb therapy, guys. This feels like rock bottom. Pat, it's what we're here for. Thank you so much for all your incredible support.
I'll be honest with you, mate. It won't be rock bottom. We'll be here again. Do not worry about that.
Yeah.
One thing we might be guaranteed Tottenham, taxes, death, and Tottenham letting us down. And I think I nicked that from someone earlier in the week, but that is true.
Absolutely. Right, we are going to react to Antonio Conte's press conference. I'm going to go to Cracks first to get his reaction to some of the comments. So I'm just going to read out parts of it, and then we'll go to each respective panelist to get their thoughts. So the first comments that come out, Cracks, I'm going to come to you on this initial part, was for the penalty, it was not a penalty, then we stop. We close the situation. The worst situation is what was happening on the pitch, what was happening in the last few months, what is happening in my second season. I think that it's the right moment to speak, because I think after this performance, for me, this is unacceptable. We are winning 3-1, in control, and concede 2 goals, and Fraser made saves. I think it's better to go into the problem. We are not a team. We are 11 players that go into the pitch. I see selfish players that don't want to help each other and don't put their heart. I see selfish players that don't want to help each other and don't put their heart in, full stop. Before today, I tried to hide the situation and improve the situation with words. About tactical and technical, it's one situation. About one thing is desire, the fire you need to have in your eyes, your heart. You need to have this in every moment. This isn't compared to last. Now we are in the worst aspect. When you are not a team, you cannot improve. Don't forget we played against Sheffield United, a team with young players, and we dropped out. To understand, we play for the badge. We play to make our fans proud of this. You have to have desire. If you do not have this, you go out of the FA Cup. Here we are used to that for a long, long time. The club has the responsibility for the transfer market. The coach has the responsibility. But the players, where are the players? I only see 11 players that play for themselves. Give me your initial thoughts to that part of the press conference.
Wow. Plenty to unpick there, isn't there, Rick? He's not wrong, is he? He's come out and he's literally just done last word on Spurs in one press conference, hasn't he? Problems with the board, problems with the culture of the club, problems with the players and the players not caring. And, until such time as we get this culture sorted, then this is what we're going to get. And I can't make him wrong, but this is Antonio Conte. When things start to go bad, he goes rogue, and the club just haven't really backed Conte in a Conte way. They've made purchases, they've bought players, but not for Conte. He's not. They're running off of one page. He's running off of another. And I can't believe that they didn't, when they took him on, have all this already mapped out and planned. This is our plan as a club. this is what we want to do. We'd like to bring you in as the manager, operating within this type of system and the way that we run the club. That conversation just doesn't seem to have been had. Or if it was had, one side, either Conte or the club, has reneged on what had been agreed. So it's just, it's square pegs in round holes, isn't it? When they got Conte, I was delighted, absolutely delighted, because I thought to myself, okay, there's a manager that's not a project manager. This isn't I'll use his name again, a Pochettino or a manager of that ilk that will bring in some, chicken shit and turn it into chicken soup. He wants the cream of chicken soup straight away. He wants them bolt on the pitch, playing, done. And I thought to myself, right, okay, now that the revenue streams are coming in from this wonderful new stadium, apparently, they're going to back him. They must be looking to back him. They must be looking to change their business model, but they really haven't, have they? So it's just got progressively worse and worse and worse. But here he is. I mean, he's absolutely served them up this evening. Will they do anything about it? Well, what do you think? I know what I think. It'll be no.
Well, they're not going to let a man speak like that, are they? They're not going to let a man speak like that.
No,
they're not.
No, absolutely not. They won't. And was he right to do it? Well, we'd say yes, but within football, we all know that you don't speak some truths, like when you're in that
so
position.
many
that's just a cultural thing of football, isn't it? But he's probably progressed the ENIC out movement with one press conference, because he's laid out everything that they've said. So I mean, they'll go and get another manager in now, but ultimately, Rick, it's new deck chairs on the Titanic, isn't it? Another manager will just be another new deck chair on the Titanic, and until such times as they change their business model or the way they run it, or bring managers in that reflects the way they run it, then this is going to keep happening, So look, everybody will reach their tipping point with how they feel about how the club is run. This is a conversation I've had with certain people within the ENIC out movement. You can't force people to protest. Maybe it's getting to that point now where people will start voting with their feet and not going, or they will start taking part in some sort of disruption or showing their disapproval of booing when the board come to take their seats, or whatever that is. You just got to let everybody get to their own point of going, no, that's enough for me. I'm going to now take part in this, or I'm going to do this as a protest. And it was Conte's this evening. Conte's, he's just come out and he said what he's had to say, but he's only really said what a lot of us are feeling. But the way the club's run just isn't. It's just not right, Rick. It's just not right from a football perspective. There has to be change. How you go about getting that, I don't know. I mean, but
did he say the club wasn't properly run? Did he allude to that or say that?
Well, I will. I promise you, I will.
Yeah,
I mean, In that next batch of comments, I will just read them out. He said that they are used to it here. They don't play for something important. They don't want to play under pressure, under stress. It's easy in this way. Tottenham's story is this for 20 years. There is the owner, but they have never won something. Why? I'm really upset, and everybody has to take responsibility. Not only the club, but everybody. It is time to change the situation. What do you gauge from those comments, John? And then we'll go over to Lee.
I'll tell you what, one thing though, Rick. I'll tell you one lot of people that don't have to bear any responsibility, and that's the fans that continue to go up and down the country trying to get behind the team. So, when he makes those comments, I think he should be a little bit more specific about who he's talking about, because there's nothing wrong with his fan base. Let me tell you, absolutely nothing. The amount of
I don't think I don't think I didn't hear him kind of criticise the fans at all. I think
Not
it's
this
more, it's from what the comments so far, it sounds like a general attack at the culture of the club, which obviously that is to do with the owners. You know, but this is, you know, he's not blameless. You know, everything he says is correct, but you know, in a way, he's become part of the problem, because if they don't back him early doors, he should have made that very clear. It seemed to me he didn't seem upset about not getting proper centre halves in. I wondered if he backed himself to be able to coach what he had there, you know, and at least get them, which at times last season, even Sanchez came in against Arsenal and played well, you know. But the football this season, you know, you have to say that some of that's on him. You know, I think the players, I think they find his football, you know, really dull, you know, is what I suspect, and a bit old fashioned. And I think they all, you know, probably look at the younger managers and how the other clubs are doing it and would rather be there. Because these players who are hiding, I wonder who that is. You know, I wonder who it is. Who, you know, is he talking about Kane, Son?
He called out all 11,
Holgate,
John. You know,
Davis?
he said all 11 were selfish. He's you know, it's, again, I'll be honest with you, on the back of that interview, and many are asking when do you think he'll be sacked? I wouldn't be surprised if he goes tonight or he goes in the morning, because, you know, he has literally taken everyone down with him, from the board to the squad, the players, everybody that could have been, attacked during his press conference in those 10 minutes. I know the wonderful journalists I've had on this show, the Ali Golds of this world, the Jack Pickbrooks, the Dan Kilpatricks, they're all saying this is the most unbelievable 10 minutes watching, where they're writing their notes on the back of this press conference, because he literally was just, it's come out swinging. It's a man that knows it's coming towards an end. But coming over to you, Macca, this is a man that knows his time is up, but he just wanted, I think, a parting shot, because he wasn't going to go down without doing it. And look, many will respect him, I think. You know, this is the one thing that I think many of us will be frustrated by, the brand of football, the way it has ended. But I think many of us, what we can't say is that what he has said in that press conference isn't spot on. And I think he will win a lot of fans back, not from the brand of football we've seen, but from the comments afterwards. And he may go out as a bit of a hero in a most bizarre, weird way, despite how atrocious it's been on the pitch. But Macca, just to bring up this final set of comments to you, he said, I've seen the managers that Tottenham had on the bench. You risk to disrupt the figure of the manager and protect the other situation every moment. Until now, I tried to hide the situation, but now no, because I repeat it. I don't want to see what I have seen today, because this is unacceptable, and also unacceptable for the fans. They follow us, pay for the ticket, and to see the team another time to have this type of performance is unacceptable. We have to think a lot about this. Until now, I tried to hide the situation. What can we fight for in this period with this attitude, this commitment for what? 7th, 8th? He was then asked if his uncertain future may be impacting the players, and he said, excuses, excuses, excuses. Try to protect them every time. Come on. We are professionals. The club paid us a lot of money. The players received money. I received money, not to find excuses. And then he signed off his press conference by essentially saying that sacking him will mean absolutely nothing, because he said that if they want to continue in this way, they can change the manager, a lot of players, but the situation cannot change. Believe me. And he signed out. And it honestly... Go and watch the press conference after this game. We're going to have it on Last Word on Spurs shortly, the press conference. I mean, it was just drama.
Rick, did he stand up, hold the mic and just drop it and walk out the press conference?
He may well have done. He may well have done. I mean, Lee, let me get your reaction to that epic 10-minute press conference from Conte, and whether he's won you back now on the basis of that conference alone. Forget about the football for a second.
Well, I think that I can't wait to watch it. It's probably better than the football match, to be fair. He serves an absolute dross in the football match, but yet in the press conferences, he's serving up gold. Ali Gold. Hey, see what I did there, Ali? Come on, next Wednesday. Look, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, he's not wrong. I can't slag him off on what he said, because I think, look, He's paid £15 million a year to get a better tune out of the players. I totally get that. It is his job. He's failing at his job ultimately. But there's wider issues here. There's issues above, as John said earlier. There's issues below, what Cracknell was talking about in terms of the players that you've touched upon, Rick. And there's issues with him as well. But his words that he's actually said in the press conference, what we're all thinking, is what we're all saying. Like, it's exactly the same. Rinse and repeat over and over and over again. The sad thing about it, and the bit that you've just said in my section to comment on about when he said you can sack the manager but it won't make any difference, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like that we as a football club have burned so many managers, 14 of them in 22 years. 2 spells, as I mentioned earlier, of Harry Redknapp and Pochettino, 4 and 5 years respectively. We've essentially burned 12 managers over a 13-year period, Rick. Under this ownership, and the only time we've sustained challenges of finals, semi-finals, title challenges, and yes, there is title challenges in there, 2 of them, by the way, has been during these settled spells of Redknapp and Pochettino. And the common denominator here is also there was no director of football under any of their managers with Redknapp and Pochettino as well. Now, we've had serial winners, project managers, club legends, ex-players. The board even sacked a serial winner 6 days before cup final, Rick. It's ridiculous. And Ryan Mason, by the way, just a quick sideshow. If you haven't gone and listened to the High Performance podcast that Jake and Damien run with Ryan Mason on it, please go and watch it or listen to it, because it's absolutely phenomenal with one of our own, Ryan Mason, talking about it. But at that time, he was a rookie and he was given the responsibility to go and win a cup final 6 days before it started. It's just utter ridiculous leadership, utter ridiculous. And we've still only got 1 trophy in 22 years. The decision-making under this tenure has been utterly abysmal. So you can't really argue with what Conte's saying tonight, in my opinion, Rick, and the lads, and all the viewers and listeners, because what he's saying, he's almost calling it out. It's very, very raw and it's very emotional, but it's also, facts, right? That's the reality. Having said all of that, and I'll come back to his 15 million, he's also paid £15 million, which I think he acknowledges, £15 million a year to get the best out of these players, to get the best out of this team. And the football, Antonio, is turgid. I sit in the South Stand. I watch you every other week when you're at home. It is rubbish. The football is rubbish. And I will sit on here week after week and, oh, yeah, don't worry, it'll come good. Oh, yeah, Mr. Optimistic Lee. I'm done. It's broken me. It's broken me, Rick. I can't do it anymore. I can't go home and take it out on my family and have the ump and have the, oh, hi, are you all right? No, not really. We lost again. Oh, hi, are you all right? No, not really. We drew. Oh, hi, are you all right? No, not, oh, yeah, we've got a win against Forest, but what? So what does that mean? We get top 4? So what? So what we get top 4? What difference does it make to you, John, or to you, Crackers, or to you, Rick, or to me, or to the fan? What difference does it make?
Well, if we'd gone through against Milan, would you see us going beyond the quarterfinals? Of course not. At least we got away without taking an hiding. But part of this, it's funny in a way with Ennick. So hiring these 2 so-called winning managers, Mourinho and Maureen and Conte, and they're both, too hot to handle, and of course they're both ultimately will protect themselves. And that's ultimately what Conte's doing today. He's protecting himself, but you end up having this washing all your dirty washing in public, like the way only Tottenham could, and yet again, it's just symptomatic of a badly run football club. It's just badly run. And has been for decades. I suppose there must be sporting analogies. I think the New York Mets, when I used to be over in New York, that they were like a joke. I think the Mets, wherever the ones was near LaGuardia Airport, they just were perennial losers. I think they were. I think it was the Mets. But anyway, that's what Tottenham are. We're just big losers. A joke of a football club, laughing stock, and let's see where it goes from here. I suppose, one scenario is Ennick won't change. They won't sell up. They won't really, Levy won't relinquish the reins of the football side of things.
Can
and it will just take on it. And the fans are just, the fans will vote with their feet. new kind of fans a go, and it'll just go nowhere. And it could limp on like this for years. It doesn't necessarily. This is not necessarily a tipping point, you know.
But do you think, John? I just want to ask you a question. You're saying that I think we're all of the understanding, and we all feel that with the current board and the way it's structured, that nothing is going to change regardless of who comes in next. But you do feel, John, if we are going to make another appointment, surely whoever they choose next, if it is Maurizio or somebody else, we have to have, and I know the last 20 years doesn't suggest we're going to get this, some form of clear communication through the next guy. Because on the back of what Conte's just done, surely we have to have someone that talks out about
right. Okay, listen, you're Levy, right? You've earned £40 million, I think was reported over the last few years or whatever. So 40 mil. You got Joe Lewis, who couldn't really he's not really bothered. I don't think he puts his own money into it or whatever. God knows with the financial kind of organisations those people know, God knows how it all works. But I don't think he puts his own sort of money into it. He's not going to pressure. He doesn't really care as long as the brand is growing. It's probably not of a huge amount of interest to him. I think Joe made a lot of money. Was it Black Monday with Soros? I believe George. Sorry, is that right? I think that's where he made. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he made a lot of money with currency speculation. I believe I may be wrong, and I think that was with George Soros. So a huge amount of money's been generated. He's obviously a very smart operator, smart businessman, but he's not interested. He won't be phoning Daniel tonight saying, "What's all this about Conte?" This shouldn't have got to this. I doubt that's going to happen. So I doubt very much. It will just, they'll just go at it again, put another manager in, and hope that it kind of changes. I mean, they got lucky with Pochettino, because he's a very positive guy who managed up. He managed up really well, and he managed down really well. And all that. So I think that's how it is. I don't see any big, huge change coming, particularly. I wouldn't think, because why should it? It's on. They've got all these Beyonce concerts are probably sold out. Was there? I think the council were upset that they did one too many.
Had to apply for an additional license for. I think they've had to apply additional license. Is it for Beyonce? I might be wrong. I
think so. Yeah,
Rick.
Was that correct?
Who owns the club? It matters not really, because I don't think there's any of these ultimate club owners that get along to the games anyway. They're just the plaything, so they don't. The actual owner doesn't really need to set the culture of the club. They're just there. It's a plaything for them, isn't it? Joe Lewis has been to Spurs probably the same amount of times as shake your tail feather or whatever that he's called, that owns one of the other clubs that we've got. They're not really that interested in them. They're just financial things. So, they're playthings for them. But then within the organisation that they're funding, you can absolutely set a culture of having your CEO and your chairman setting a culture that comes down to the manager, that comes down to the players, and that feeds into the terraces and da-da-da-da. So, I mean, I couldn't care if Joe Lewis, Lennox Lewis or Leona Lewis own the club. It's, as I said before, what do you care? It's like, they have no sort of input into the running of the club. Just make sure you get the right people within the club with a plan and stick with it. Give it a go. Give it 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, even Lord Sugar himself's waded in about 5 minutes ago with this, and he's just tweeted, and he said, problem with Spurs, even under my chairmanship, is the mood culture of the players. So he's throwing the players under the bus again, solely just the players. They don't play as a team with camaraderie or passion. All they do is moan, but we need more players. I recall saying to a player, more players, do you mean you're not good enough and we should replace you? So, but, the chairman, it was a different ownership model then. You just set a culture, just set something, a target. Right, okay, this is the way we're going to do. This is what we're going to have as a football club. We're going to go with a young, progressive manager and we're going to bring in this type of player and give that a go. So, you know, in any organisation, work organisation, the workforce takes its cues and its culture from the top, doesn't it? You know, it's that. So if they're setting the right example, it feeds down. So,
well, that's what I'm saying about someone like Levy stepping to one side. You know, well, that's why I was thinking. You know, what you want is, you know, you get like a director of football. You know, I mean, look at Arsenal. We got that young geezer with a beard. Well, I don't particularly like the look of any of them, but
I mean, he would argue he's done that job, and he's got Parategy in there. I know, obviously, he's got this ban situation, but he would argue that maybe he has stepped aside.
I'm sorry.
Well, maybe, but all roads seem to go back to him, you know. And hey, only Tottenham could have a guy that might be getting suspended in not only in Italy but the rest of the world. Paratici, from what I understand, is that, you know. So that's a mess,
Yeah.
You know. Even that's a mess. And what you need to do is, you know, if you're really going to make a change, you on the football side, you know, you really need to give that an autonomous. It needs to work out its identity within the whole Tottenham setup, you know, with Enick and all that. But it has to have an autonomy. You have to give people. Look at Arteta. Arsenal obviously really listened to him. He even got involved, I believe. Arteta. Yeah, again, really don't like the look of him. Not somebody I want to have a cup of tea with particularly. Not only because I just don't like the look of him, but that's another matter. I don't like anyone at that club. I don't like the architecture at Highbury. It put me on Art Deco for years. I didn't realise that. There's nothing about the club I really like, but you know, they know what they're about. And funny enough, today, talking to a mate of mine who saw their youth team play Millwall, and they got beat. But he said the organisation about the young fellas they had in the Arsenal team, you know, they really knew exactly what they were about. I mean, they were under 15s or 16s or something. And I think, you know, he happened to see the game, and I was telling him that I think that they have their youth set up. Is it Holt End or Howe End or something in Essex or something? Essex, East London borders. And I think they did that because they know most of the kids who come will come from that kind of side of town. So it's all, you look at the likes of Saka, these young players coming through the academy, you know, it's obviously all been thought out, you know, and they've had a messy few years, but they've had to attend to it. And they've got that, you know, that young guy, you know, they've got that Edu, and they've got that younger guy, the guy that's connected somehow with their American investors, I believe, you know, helping to oversee things and work as a team, you know. And it's like very much out with the old, in with the new. And that was when in any other business, if you're the CEO, chairman of a company, that all the share, you know, that, you know, in a way, you know, if you just look at the club and making the analogy of that being a business unto itself, that you know, everyone's unhappy. You think, you know, all the fans are unhappy, that anyone with anything about themselves would step aside. Yeah, surely they just think, for the fairness of the situation, I'll step aside. That's not going to happen, I don't think.
Can I ask you, Mac? Thank you so much, Joe. Honestly, really appreciate it. Listen, so much honesty on this show, I must say. Lee, I just want to bring you in because I'm conscious that time-wise, we're in an hour and a half in. We're not going to do, like I say, the game itself tonight, but there are brief things that I just... No, brief things I do want to touch upon. But just to finish up on these comments, Lee, you know, I think what we all are relative in understanding is that I think we all agree Conte's been fairly accurate in terms of what he said. But it does feel, Lee, that the club maybe could have done something about this when our season wasn't over. And that would have involved maybe them taking a proactive approach. Are you also frustrated that it's got to where it's got to today? Because it feels like this could have been called off a long time ago when the season was still alive. We was in both cups. And I said to you, I think before, Lee, that to have gone into the second half of the season with this guy's contract still not being resolved, and you said as well about Harry contract. It was, look, I'm going to be honest, in football terms, I'm going to say in football terms, again, it's a very big word to use. It is football suicide to have gone into a second half of a season when you've got a manager that didn't commit and you've got players that also aren't committed, and you're asking Conte to commit and you're asking the players to commit when the manager isn't committed himself. So I find it very hard to do that. So just to finish off on this part, Lee, just tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely bang on, mate. I completely agree with that. I agree with everything everyone's saying tonight. It's been such a honest show. I mean, the constant at this football club has been a director of football under this tenureship. In 22 years, we've had no stability at the top of the footballing side. You've had Frank Arneson that came in 2004, the official director of football. He was the first director of football in the Premier League. Another first for Tottenham. We like doing first, don't we, viewers and listeners? He was the first ever director of football in the Premier League. He lasted barely a year as he wanted to go to Chelsea, although we did appoint John McDermott, to be fair, into our academy, who lasted 15 years. Then came Damien Comoli, who John referenced earlier. And after bringing absolute quality in the likes of Modric and Berbatov, he had various bust-ups with Martin Jol in the club. And after 3 years, he left because he wanted to go to Liverpool. I mean, this is absolute comedy. And it keeps coming. Daniel and the board then decided to abolish the director of football in favour of bringing in Harry Redknapp, because that's the only way Harry would join, because he wanted full control of the club. And we built a team that had the likes of King and Michael Dawson and Modric and Bale and Van der Vaart and Defoe and Crouch. And despite qualifying, Rick, and the listeners and the viewers, for the Champions League, for the first time in our history, we still didn't win a trophy under that lot. I mean, this is utterly bizarre. So after 5 years without a director of football, guess what, everyone? Breaking news, the board decided to go back to a director of football model and appoint Franco Baldini, who lasted 2 years and sold Bale to Real Madrid. He also oversaw the recruitment of the Magnificent Seven. We all know how that turned out. No trophies. Then come Paul Mitchell, came in from Southampton, slightly different role to the director of football. He brought in the likes of Dyer, Dele, Toby and Son, but then he resigned after 2 years. Still no trophies. Why did he resign after bringing all them brilliant players through? Then was Steve Hitchin. This is the guy that not only signed NG and Clark and Reguilon and Lo Celso and then Dembele, who's on record signing, he also went through 518 days without signing a single player. And 2 years in, we're now on Paratici, the managing director of football, the man responsible for all things on the football side. We never see him. We never hear from him. We see him once a year in the January transfer window. And this is a guy that, John, you mentioned earlier, has been banned from transfer dealings in Italy. Yes, he's made some excellent signings, but hello, what is going on? And then we wonder why Conte is and why Levy's or Evers and the fans are the fans. This is an utter mess. Am I spitting facts here? Am I talking utter rubbish? I mean, this is factual information, Rick. And this is just, you cannot go on like this. And the reason why I'm on a rant and I'm so on it tonight is because Klinsmann, Son, Kane, Teddy Sheringham, Keane, Berbatov, Crouch, Defoe. We've had some unreal strikers play for this football club. And out of that lot, we've won one trophy since all that lot was there in that front line. Van der Vaart, Modric, Bale, Carrick, Anderton, Eriksson, Dele Alli, Moussa Dembele. One trophy. Come on, people. This is ridiculous. Maybe two if you're going Ramon Vega in there. Ledley King, Michael Dawson, Romero, Toby, Jan, Walker, Rose. I mean, this is just ridiculous. No one can argue with me that these aren't quality players that I'm reading out here. And this is some of the stuff that Conte's saying, like they're playing as individuals, as Crackers just said about Lord Sugar. They're playing as individuals, not as a team. Lloris, Friedel, Paul Robinson, England's number one. I mean, come on, man. This is over and over and over again. The board don't back the managers in the right way, but the board have spent money, right? The board have. They've spent over 500 million quid. This is why I never say Levy out or an ink out. I'm not going to sign up to that. I want change. What I actually want is this board to stay together, but change their ways. I want the board to say, do you know what? The level of detail we've done off the field, I want to do it on the field. And I want to make this club absolutely great. And I want to puff my chest out and be proud of our football club. That's what I actually want. I'm probably completely deluded, as I'm sure you guys and the viewers and listeners will tell me. But that's what I want. I want this. I want Daniel and the board to see the success on the pitch. That's what I actually want. That's why I will never say an ink out or leave you out, because I don't actually want that. I just want them to change. But if there's no change coming, Rick, what do we do?
This is all. I think you've said it earlier, but if they're not willing to change, how can you continue to back the regime? To put it in the most politest way.
Sorry for my rant tonight, Rick. I'm really sorry, mate.
It's fine. Look, what we are going to do, look, just really conscious of time. There you go. It slipped in there for the bingo card callers. We are going to go for our final break of the show For our listeners and audio, we're joined by the wonderful Lee McQueen, a superb Richard Cracknell, and the brilliant musician John Wobble. John has spit so many facts tonight. I mean, my God, where's this show going? I am very conscious that we are eating up Saturday night, and it is a real shame because the game itself for Tottenham, like I say, you know, we had Porro's first goal, Perich's first goal for the club, a Kulusevski assist, a Son assist, a Kane goal. We should be sitting and talking about a Spurs win, and ultimately we're not because of just the absolute mess that Spurs.
Right, sorry, this is what annoys me, right? Sorry, Jack, right? I'm pulling you out on this because I'm on one tonight. You're telling me I'm delusional. I'm not delusional. I did not say that I think they will change. Listen to my words. I said I want them to. That is very different. So with this ridiculous comment on screen, I did not say that. What I actually said was, I'd love that. I want them to change it. I don't think they will, and that's why I'm so freaking angry. So take the delusional stuff off here. I'm spitting facts tonight, Jack. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, look, it is highly emotional, passionate tonight. Lots and lots of frustration. Where does it ultimately end? I don't know. If I'm going to be honest with you, Cracks, I'm going to steer this final part of the show around to you. And I mean, look, I'm just going to pull out certain segments of the game because we can't sit here and put everyone through the game itself. But, you know, Southampton, they should really have been in front in the first 3 minutes. A long lay blocked Armstrong's effort. And then Porro did put Spurs in front. It's a shame because Pedro Porro got his first goal for the club. You maybe say he's actually one of the lights to come out of the game because he's one that could take social media afterwards and be fairly okay with his performance. I think, obviously, Conte went and all the 11 players saying they're very selfish. I thought, to be fair, Porro had a fairly decent game, took his goal really well. It was also Son's 50th Premier League assist for the club. He actually had a couple of chances earlier, but yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those games that will be overshadowed because Cracks were in 44 seconds after half-time. Southampton had levelled. It was awful defending from Spurs. We had Longley and Perisic leaving Walcott in way too much space. Dyer and Romero not staying with their man. Porro still being outside the box when he scored. I think, again, that goal is really reminiscent of today, Cracks, when it should have been better from not only the goalkeeper, but also the entire back five of the team.
Clam's car on fire yet again at the back, isn't it? So, and yet the way we play football just leaves them exposed all the time with players that are just not good enough. So until if Conte stays for the rest of the season but doesn't change his system, this is what you're going to get. Or you can't bring in new players. That's what we're stuck with at the moment. This is the hand we've been dealt. And we've come second half, not switched on, not fired up, not ready to go again, just half-assed, sloppy, you know, dangling a leg out, and then they come and they score, and you just give them a little bit of hope, and they just built off of it, didn't they? And you know, a goal that just seems to be indicative of the club at the moment. Just, you know, not really eye on the ball, not really fired up, not really looking to pull their weight, just not good enough, good enough. And this is the problem we've currently got, you know, that it's dopey defending, isn't it? It's absolutely dopey. But like I said a little while ago, bring in a manager that wants to get on the front foot and go at teams. You shield that defence, which is poor and needs replacing. And you're playing in the half with a front three. The front three started today. I know Richarlison had to go off, but you've got England's number one striker, Brazil's number one striker, and South Korea's number one striker. Three of them up front. The three of them.
Mad.
So I just don't understand why you're not letting them, just like giving them more of the ball, making everything a little bit more progressive into them to go and hurt teams. Because
yeah, but the trouble is though, Cracks, isn't it? With this with the 3-4-3 system, you know, we're too porous in midfield and nothing comes through the midfield. So the whole tactic is to get the ball wide. You're not getting balls into feet, and you're not getting balls in for Son. So he's good off the shoulder. Everything's going wide, and it's quite ponderous. It goes wide, it comes back again, it goes across. There isn't any quick 1-2s, you know, cutting through teams. The balls aren't going into feet. You haven't got balls being knocked over into space for people to come in off the shoulder or anything, you know. I think they've all sussed out Kane's going to drop deep, and they just go with him. They just put two with him anywhere he bloody goes now a lot of the time, you know. And so if you said to somebody like Holberg, okay, what do you think? Obviously, he'd be a guy. He's the midfield for sort of engine. That what you know? What do you think about Conte almost calling the players kind of cowardly in a way, isn't it? Or in a way, you could hear it that way. And that you think with someone like Holberg, I bet would say, well, look, we need an extra body in midfield. There's no point me shouting, or I am shouting at people, but what difference does it make when the gaps between the players in midfield are too much? Because how many times have we seen this year? We have three put up against our two in midfield and we get overrun. And I guess, you know, for the players, you just get dispirited and you think, well, what do you want me to do? So sometimes in football, it can look like you've got a bad attitude, but actually you're just not, you know, the system needs to kind of change. And with that system, now that we lost Bentancur, who had a degree of creativity to him in midfield, you know, they're pretty plain Jane. I mean, it was a lovely ball that Skip made for Richarlison last week, but neither of them are really great. You know, they're not James Maddison. Have them, as I said earlier, put them in front of a four as the pivot players. And then you could start to play balls into feet a little bit more. You could mix it up. And you could take, you know, you could, and also, why not start with Danjuma? Drop Son. You know, he can always be an impact player, you know, as he's proven a couple of times this season. He's having a very poor season. We're now nearly into Easter. He ain't going to come good in a big way. It's, you know, there's something not right there, you know.
John, I know you can't see these comments, but someone is saying here, John's just showing how you need to be close and compact. We had you right up underneath the screen there. If we were pressing as much as you were showing us there, we'd be bloody all right.
Yeah, well, you know, it's, you know, you need a general there. You need someone to come in and, you know, as I say, I mean, you know, I'm going around in circles like all of us, but, you know, for me, Levy needs to step aside a bit. And, you know, we need to get someone in running the football side of things, but at least you get a manager in who plays, you know, plays to the strengths of this squad. And, you know, it's all well and good what Levy said today. Bear in mind, you know, and I don't mind the bloke, but he's protecting his brand. He's protecting his stock with what he said. It's not about us, because remember, he's doing us a bloody favour by being there, by the way, you know. That's how it comes across a lot of the time. There's no real, you know, I mean, we busted man's gut anyway, ain't we? We've done his health. We've done for him, Tottenham, you know, as we do for everybody, you know. But he's, you know, he's not, I like Conte. I think there's something likeable about him, but he's all these top managers, they're really good at protecting their own stock. So that outburst tonight isn't really for us, it's for him. And I think he's like saying to Levy, come on, sack me. You know, come on, you know, get on with it, you know.
I must have said, I mean, as you said there, John, I wonder for the amount of fans that he lost during the game due to his lack of in-game management and tactical stubbornness, how many did he won back in the press conference afterwards? I would love to know that, because I think he definitely won many. Look, as we draw this show to a close, which we are going to do very, very soon, I am very conscious of the amount of time we're giving here, and we might be back with you guys sooner rather than later, as you can imagine, with whoever's going to be in charge of this.
I reckon this is a mid-interval break, mate. We'll be back on after the 10 o'clock news because Conte will be gone.
Could you imagine? I can't see it tonight. I think they won't put us through that tonight. Look, we know a lot of the board watch this show. I think if they've got any sense, don't do it tonight. Do it in the morning. Give us a chance to just recap what's going on here. Look, in terms of, like I say, the worrying stat for Spurs in terms of, like I say, the goals conceded now is that we've now conceded 9 goals in the first 15 minutes of the second half in the Premier League this season. And we've got, even at 34, Walcott easily beating Perisic and Longley for pace. So as much as there's issues that we know in terms of, you know, the players, but also psychologically, as John alluded to, mentally we're shot to pieces. Kane, of course, number 23 for him for the season. It's now 12 goals in 14 games. For those that care, he's equalled the record for most headed goals in a Premier League, which feels like the most relevant stat right now. He's now got more headed goals than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues. Perisic, as Lee said earlier, got his goal. You wouldn't really know it because it was such a lack of a celebration. It was almost bizarre. I mean, Conte was going mental on the bench for it, But very, very strange. It has to be said. And then Walcott, in typical Anthony Costa fashion, I would say, it was one going 40 before, say, for Theo Walcott. The last in May 2020. Of course, he was going to score against Spurs, and he did to reduce the deficit to 3-2. And I've got to say, big saves from Fraser Forster. This time to deny Mare. It could have been 3-3 at that point. We then made a couple of changes. Emerson and Sarr replaced Porro and Kulusevski. And then Saints got the penalty. We're going to, again, close it on this particular point before, like I say, we, for all of our own mental health sake. Cracks, Sarr tried to clear the ball. He instead, in some people's opinion, catched Maitland-Niles. VAR checked it. It was given. I've got to be honest and say, look, a couple of hours on from watching it, I still don't understand how that has been given as a penalty, because I thought VAR was there to correct the clear and obvious. And I still don't think, this is making no excuse about what's happened today, because we didn't deserve to win the game with the way we defended. But can you understand that penalty decision, Cracks?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, Rick, wasn't it? But make sure that when you're playing a team at the bottom of the league, be a cushion. But so when you do get these absolutely ridiculous decisions like that, they don't affect the outcome of you getting the win.
You keep the bloody ball. You keep the bloody ball, don't you? You keep the bloody ball. Yeah. That's what you do. When we can't keep the fucking ball, you keep the fucking ball. You keep the fucking ball. That's what you do. And it's not, they could do that. It's just, and that's where I think with the senior pros, you just need someone to keep the fucking ball. And you get up in someone's face to say that if you've got to. That's what you do. You shouldn't be bouncing around the fucking penalty area. At that point, it's pathetic. It's absolutely weak, weak mentality. It's a weak mentality. It really is. I mean, I'd love to be given a job to go down there and be in charge of discipline there. It's really weak. Really, really weak, and that's Tottenham. Port Vale away all them years ago. I think it's the only club I've ever seen. We went to Man City under Ozzy Ardiles' stewardship and played without a defence. How'd you like that? That was fantastic done.
The glory is
only Tottenham. Only Tottenham. Only Tottenham.
Oh, tell you, John, you're getting so much love here, John, for that. Just the best rant. Just keep the fucking ball. Cracks. Anything more on that penalty? I think Cracks is frozen. He can't believe what he's just heard. Mental.
You keep the ball and you win some free kicks. Yeah, you shithouse it. You shithouse out the last 10, 15 minutes. You shithouse it out. You go down. You keep the ball because it fucking matters. You're going through the Champions League spot. If we're 4 points ahead of Newcastle, then with 2 games in hand, that's still pressure on them. They were quite a little bit fortunate to edge it. I watched their game. I mean, they deserved to win, to be fair, but it was a last knock penalty yet again, that won it for them. And, out of Newcastle and Tottenham, who deserves that 4th spot more? Resurgent Newcastle or flaccid old Tottenham? It means far more to their fans than to us because we can't be bothered with it.
But you're right then, Joe. I mean, what is the purpose of getting the top 4, as we say? Because when we do go into the Champions League, I don't think anyone actually genuinely believes that we can win it. Cracks, let me come around to you if I can. So, look, it's given. They score it. It's so, again, typical that Southampton missed their 2 penalties this season, and Ward-Prowse made no mistake in regards to burying that. And that leads us to, again, the game being at 3-3. And I think ultimately the question we should close the show on, really, Cracks, is maybe not if, but when will Antonio be relieved of the manager's job? Which, again, maybe some will feel on the back of that press conference that he should be staying. Maybe some will feel. But, I mean, what do you think? How does this play out? And then, Cracks, when are we back here for the sack special? I think that's what many are probably asking the question. When are we back to cover these?
Yeah, that's coming, Rick, isn't it? But like I said, they'd have gone away this evening. They now have their accountants been counting, looking at what works best financially for them and everybody, and the varying scenarios of not making top 4, reputation damage. They'll have KPIs for all of this. And as soon as the moment that it's £1 cheaper to sack him than to keep him, he'll be gone. And I think he's got to a point where he is going to go. They'll have an emergency board meeting tomorrow, I should think, and then Monday morning on we go to Twitter, and you'll see the corner flag picture or that picture of the Spurs cockerel on the outside of the stadium, shot from below looking up, and with club statement. And so it'd just be a day, a night, this evening and tomorrow, of putting their ducks in a row. It'll be Ryan Mason, won't it, until such times as they, let the dust settle and look at who's going to come in and try and get a structure. But listen, there's so many people associated to this club with a vast knowledge of football. Some of the players that we've had in the past, not all of them, but there's a fair few of them with a good knowledge that would be happy to help out and, just to try and give the club some direction and that, there's some good brains out there. People like Glenn Oddle and people like Ozzy Ardiles and, some of these people, they don't have to be involved, but at least go and speak to them, Ryan Mason, he does get it. Ledley King, he gets it. Jose brought him in on the training side. So just go and pick some of their brains as well. Try and get a feel for what Tottenham wants.
Can I ask you, Cratchit, to come back to you on it? And this is what we are going to finish. And I promise you, for the guests that we've got here, for our listeners and viewers here, there's still about 1,300 of you watching us here. It's important that we do finish on this point, because by the time we come back, whenever that might be, a new man is here. Is giving it to Ryan Mason now, Cracks. And look, I have to say, I agree with Lee. A wonderful, wonderful, wonderful interview. The High Performance Podcast with Ryan. For what that guy's been through has just been remarkable. The man's still here. I've got to be honest and say this. But again, I'm going to say this from football terms here. And this is no disrespect to Ryan, who's clearly really well thought of at the club, really well thought of amongst the coaching staff with Antonio. For those that are asking the question here, are we writing off the next 11 games and potentially getting into the top 4 by giving Ryan the job? Or should we be looking to bring in that coach right now to work with the players that we want, the number one man, if he's out there and available, and again, many will be thinking about Maurizio or whoever that may be, give him the chance to come in right now, get the chance to work with the players now before the start of pre-season, so he's got a bedding in period to work out who he wants to keep, who he wants to go, rather than giving it to Ryan and waiting to the summer. Is that fair, or what do you think very quickly on this before we look to close it?
Yeah. Get the new man in now. This is Tottenham Hotspur. I know it don't look like it much at the moment, but this is Tottenham Hotspur, and there's some fine and decent managers out there that would crawl over broken glass to take this job. They absolutely would. Good pay, good facilities, good players, and a lot of them would fancy the challenge. So whether that's Company at Burnley, make him the right offer, I'm sure he'd come. Luis Enrique, currently out of work. Ditto Maurizio Pochettino. De Zerbi down at Brighton. All of these managers are available if you make the right offer and you give them the right amount of autonomy. Let them come in. Let them see what they can do for this last 10, 11 games. Let them have a look at what's going on around the club at the moment and the cultures and everything, where to put it right. And then you give them a pre-season to go. So, the manager comes in and he's got like a 10-game free hit. We're not getting relegated. Still a good chance of top 4 if we can put a run together, because I don't see anybody else really below us really tearing up trees. They look in better places, but they're not absolutely tearing it up, are they? And come together, find the manager, find what it is you want to do for the next 3-4 years and stick with it and give it a go. But you know what, Rick? If it fails, if we bring in somebody like Luis Enrique and we give them carte blanche to go out and do what they want to do, like with the way that he plays, and back them in the transfer market, if it doesn't work, well, I'd take me out off to the club and go, well, at least we gave it a go. At least we had something we was aiming at. We never quite made it, but we had a go at it. We gave it everything. It didn't quite work out. And I'd be happy with that, because sometimes, even the best laid plans of mice and men don't come together. But don't keep doing this flotsam and jetsam and trying to nail jelly to the wall. Oh, let's have a go at this. Let's have a go at that. Because at the moment, we're like one of these kids' party venues where the kids can go and dress up as a fireman or, you know, a pilot or a farmer or something. And that's what we like as a club at the moment. We're like kids at one of those parties, isn't we? I'm going to be a fireman for 5 minutes, and they tear around in a fireman's outfit. And they go,
not a serious club. Not a serious football club. Absolutely. Not a serious football club. Yeah.
Just we're saying, go and get one right now. Not Ryan Mason, the manager that we want, and give it a go. Right now, tonight.
Cracks, thank you so much, bud. Look, I know you're going to be back with us very, very soon. Probably not to your heart's content and to what you want to do, but mate, we really, really appreciate it. Love having you on Last Word on Spurs. I'm going to close it with Lee. So, John, I want to come to you next and ask you the same question. John, for you, if you're looking to make a change right now, and can I just say for those that are asking me in the comments here and telling me in the comments, I know, listen, because I just be clear, I know the manager is not the total problem here. I know it goes higher up. It's the players, it's the hierarchy. But given the circumstances we're in, we've got to change something. And the ball aren't going to go tomorrow, and 25 players aren't going to go tomorrow. So unfortunately, in this world that we live in the football crazy world we live in, it is always the manager that pays for his job. And this is no different, unfortunately. The ball aren't going to be walking tomorrow. That's fact. So, John, if I can ask the same question to you, do you give it to Ryan Mason for the next 10, 11 games, or do you bring in the man that you want to be leading this club come the start of next season?
No, I don't give it to Ryan Mason. You know, it's not fair on him. What I think they might do is get Poch back on just to the end of the season with a suck it and see how it goes, you know, halfway house. Because I believe Levy and him struck up a friendship that's still there, and I'm sure they would be talking. So I think he'd come in. He knows most of the fans would be happy with that, you know. And it'd be great if Joe Lewis at some point, you know, someone said, "Come on, Joe, mate, you know, please just give half a bill. Just for the team, just as everyone, I love you." I doubt it would ever happen, but you know, half a bill just to spend in the summer. Like, come on, Joe, come on, you know, please, you know, let's do something, you know, and because I've got to see us win the league before I peg it. That's important, yeah. For fuck's sake, I want to see us win the league before I peg it, just fucking once, you know. But anyway, I think that's what they'll do. You know, I think they'll get Pochettino back, probably, I would suspect, or someone else to come in with him, albeit on a temporary basis, which could really end up, you know, being an awkward situation then for Levy, because you've kind of got someone in situ then. But Levy does tend to sort of make these decisions, doesn't he? Like letting Mourinho go 6 days before a cup final. So you know. But I guess they can't. You know, Levy's basically Conte's just thrown down such a gauntlet now tonight with those comments. So that's what I think. I think to give it to Mason would just be a mistake. If you got Pochettino in it, you never know. We might actually go at a few teams, and you imagine that the crowd would suddenly really get behind them, and you never know, they might scrape through into Europe, you know, into the Champions League. But at least, you know, I think we're going to be just about fortunate to end up with Europa League football, but at least it'd be nice to sort of, you know, just go on the front foot for fuck's sake, you know, go at teams, you know, play with a bit of fucking pride. To dare is to do all that bollocks. You know what?
We always advocate the fact this is a family show. I think that probably's gone out the window tonight, and probably rightly so. Really, I mean,
sorry, I always
listen, for those that for those that are still listening and watching to us, bless your heart. There's still a good. I'm surprised we haven't lost anyone. I think we're gaining people by the sounds of it, which is absolutely insane given the time that we're at here. But John, I've got to say, mate, thank you so much for giving up your time. It was last minute. You probably kill me after for doing this to you. Can I just say?
No, I'm glad I've done it. It's been fun, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, fun as much as putting needles in your eyes. But John, thank you so much, my man. Can I just say, please go and check out all of John's upcoming events on Twitter. I think they are, John. You've got one at pinned page.
Yeah, I've got a tour coming up.
Yeah.
It starts in May, and I've got an album recording on London buses that's out there, and this, that, and the other.
I think it's important to note, John, you actually are a musician, apart from battering Tottenham on a month by month basis whenever you're on it. You do actually, you are a musician. It must be said, and a wonderful one.
Yeah. I love music, and music, like I say, can be the same. Every players, footballers, and music often think they're better than they are. They all want to be a snazzy number 10, playing solos really quick and all that. It's the same thing, getting everyone working as a team, and getting everyone get it functioning, and being team players. Sometimes you end up saying to some of the more talented players, can you just play the fucking part? I'm not employing you to fucking play, show them how many clever you are, how many notes. Just play the fucking part. Yeah? That's just for once. Play the fucking part.
If only they got,
and you think with Tottenham, and to me it's the same. Just keep the fucking ball. Just keep it simple. What are you so special? You fucking retarded? What's up?
Can I just say, if it wasn't the nature of the show we would have, John, I promise you I would title that. But God, Jordan says here, family show, John is proper rock and roll. And you can't change him for that, and we totally agree. John, it's been a real pleasure. Macca, I'm going to throw the floor over to you and let you close last word on Spurs in the spitting facts that you've been doing all night, really. It's been, again, a wonderful show with real honest truths by everybody here. Close it, Lee. What comes next? When does it come? And what do you want to happen for these next 10, 11 games?
Well, I think I've been pretty vocal tonight around that change needs to happen. I'm in favour, absolutely, of change. I want that change coming from the top all the way through the football club. It needs an absolute reset. The culture and the environment that Cracker's talked about is absolutely needs to be renewed. We've forgotten who we are. We don't know our why. You go and have a look at the TED Talk by Simon Sinek and you understand what I'm talking about when it's why. You need an essence of who you are and what you do as a business, as a football club. We've lost it. We don't know where we are. We've gone down win now managers. We've had absolute turgid football for 5 seasons. Absolute shocking. We've got the Champions League final in 2019. We spent 130 million in that summer and that wasn't backing him. And then the first glint of, he's not good enough. We sack him. He had miles more credit in the bank. We should have gone down to League 2 with Pochettino. Pochettino is the man to come back to his football club. Maurizio Pochettino is the man to come back to his football club and say, hey, do you remember what I said to you about the furniture? Do you remember what I said to you about changing and moving and rebuilding this football club? I'm going to do it for you, but you're going to do it with me. And Mr. Levy and the board, you need to come and say, you know what? We made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. We made one with Maurizio Pochettino. This is why he's coming back into the football club. It's going to be cuddles. It's going to be kisses. And it's going to be another project that us fans have to stomach. We have to stomach another project. However, Maurizio, when he first came in 2014, in the 2015, we had a title challenge. In 2016, we had a title challenge. We got to semi-finals, even though we didn't take the cup seriously, by the way. We haven't been past the FA Cup 5th round since Maurizio left. I think we got knocked out against Colchester. And then after that, we haven't been past the 5th round of all these other win-now managers. These win-now managers, by the way, Rick, that say, yeah, we can win everything. They ain't taking us past the 5th round in the FA Cup. The Jose's, the Antonio Conte's. We got to a Champions League final with Maurizio. He's loving it. If you want to see a passion about Maurizio Pochettino, just go and watch the last episode of Last Word on Spurs. Ricky Norwood, absolute heart helped you. Matty Hayes, Anthony Costa, yourself, Rick. It was unbelievable. You can argue all the toss, don't go back, don't go this, don't go that. It's Maurizio. He gets us. He knows us. He knows where we are. He knows what we want to do. He understands the fabric. Just vision it today, the last game at White Hart Lane, when he's looking around and the rainbow's out, the pride in that man's face of going to take us to the next level. Christ, he helped build half the stadium with Daniel Levy, for God's sake. Get the geezer back in here and make him and do what he needs.
And he's got a better squad now. He didn't have the Brazilian centre forward in his squad then, did he, back then? He's got a better squad now.
And John,
if he comes back in.
And John, you're spot on, right? We need some upgrades for sure, but we've got young talent in Destiny, Doggy coming in. Pedro Porro's just hit his straps. We've got Jed Spence, who will be an absolute outstanding under the fullback whisperer, Rick, called Maurizio Pochettino. We've got Romero, who's his Argentinian compatriot as well. We've got Basuma, could be the next Dembele under Maurizio Pochettino. Yes, we've got some old hats with Kane and Son, but there's still quality. And then you've got the likes of Decky, you've got the likes of Richie, adding a Maddison there, adding a top quality left-sided centre-back. Go back to a 4-2-3-1. Let's go and rip the league up. Let's go and rip up finish what we started. The bloke bleeds Tottenham Hotspur, and we need a manager that loves our football club. And a final message from me on my rant tonight is, players, what are you doing? What are you hoping for? You love the training ground, you love the facilities, you love the lodge. What about playing and going out there every week in, week out? You've got Harry Kane busting his gut off, smashing records all over the gaff. He's looking around the dressing room and you're defending like that. I mean, you are literally having a laugh. You are taking our money week in, week out, and it is not good enough. And a final message from me to the board is, something's got to change. You cannot keep doing this. And if you do, you're going to lose the real essence of what this football club is if we haven't already lost it. And that is us. That is us fans that do this for free. We do not get paid. We're not on no bankroll. And I do this for free. And I've got my family downstairs that I could be sitting with watching Harry Potter. But I'm not. I'm up here ranting and raving about Tottenham because I do this because I love our football club. If we show the passion and the drive and the commitment across the entire base of this club from top to bottom, that is board, that is managers, that is directors of football, that is fans, that is players, we can go and win stuff. Them guys down the road, fair play to you, Arsenal. Fair play to you. Because if you go and win the league, fair play to you. But they're 18 points clear of us with a game in hand now, probably 21 points behind. And last year, they finished behind us. The year before, they finished 8th. The year before, they finished 8th. So Conte, however much I back your word tonight, do not tell me we're a rubbish little football club that can't turn it around. Because you can do an 18-point, 22-point, 25-point swing in one season. Because they've done it. Liverpool done it 3-4 years ago. And we could have done it as well if we had that togetherness. And we haven't got it, Rick. And that's what I'm saying. It's Pochettino, Maurizio, he's magic. And you all know it.
Well, listen, I mean, again, the manager does split a lot of opinion. That's most certainly for sure. I mean, I think what we all probably feel across here is that there probably isn't just one change that needed. There's probably several changes that needed from the top downwards to the players, to the manager. And again, we mentioned the board on here. And all I would say is that what is the point now of waiting until the summer? You know, we've drawn away at bottom of the table Southampton. You know, there's no point in keeping hold of somebody that ultimately doesn't really want to be here. I will say that again, I think Antonio Conte really did speak from the heart in that press conference that, again, you can go and check out on Last Word on Spurs or check out, of course, on all the different outlets. But he told a lot of home truths in that press conference. And I have to say, if that is the last time we've spoken about Antonio Conte, obviously we'll have his post-mortem of a show in terms of obviously him leaving the club, which we would imagine to be very, very soon. It might be already by the time this show has gone out. But look, whatever we think, we are still Spurs. We will come again. It doesn't feel like that right now, but we have to stick together. And I've always said that as a fan base, we're always more stronger when we're together, when we're united, and we all want the same thing. And I think, again, that we mustn't, as I think Lee said, lose that essence that we are all here because we all want one thing, and that's Tottenham to win. Regardless of who wants the manager, regardless of what you think about the board, regardless of what you think about the players, we are all here for one reason, and that is to see Tottenham win. So look, from the wonderful Lee McQueen, from the superb Richard Cracknell, from the brilliant John Wobble, guys, look, your support has been absolutely overwhelming tonight. Thank you so much for all of your incredible support, your comments, your love. I would love to have sat and read through 80 listener statements and questions that we've had. I promise you we will find a time to dedicate to those. It's just sorry it hasn't been tonight. That's the nature of this show. But look, we will be back with you, I'm sure, very, very soon. But on behalf of us all here, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.